What is up, YouTube? Evengary here, and I finally did it. I finally played a modern Call of Duty. Black Ops 7 had a free week recently, and I downloaded all 150 gigs, or whatever it was, and I gave it a shot. Unsurprisingly, I have a lot of thoughts about the game, and I'm going to share them here, along with my updated opinions on the franchise as a whole, because it has been a while since I've talked about them. I'll admit it, I had fun, and when the trial was over, I was left wanting more, but I still didn't buy it. So the question I'm going to answer in this video is, if the game was fun, and I enjoyed my time playing it, why didn't I buy it? Again, I have a lot to cover since I haven't made a Call of Duty opinion video in over a decade, so this will also have the added benefit of answering the question, why haven't I bought a Call of Duty in the last 10 years? Before we get started, I want to give some context. I have not played a Call of Duty multiplayer seriously since Black Ops 3. I played the open beta of World War II, and I made a video about it, but that's it. My frustrations with the franchise are well documented, and I'm going to reiterate some of those issues in this video, but even though I haven't played any of the recent games, I do care deeply about the franchise. So much so that I've always stayed in touch with the community. There are a few YouTubers that I still watch every single one of their videos, and I keep my finger on the pulse of the community on Reddit. This franchise has been a huge part of my life, and I always want it to succeed. Call of Duty 4 through Black Ops 2, and I might even throw Ghosts in there, were some of my favorite games of all time. In fact, I recently downloaded Plutonium on PC, and I've been playing Black Ops 1 and 2 again, which has been so much fun. Throughout this video, I'm going to throw some footage of those games in here to compare and contrast to Black Ops 7 just for fun. Quick side note, if you do want to play older Call of Duties without all the modders and hacked lobbies, you should absolutely download Plutonium. I'll put it in the description. It's free and super easy, the lobbies are clean, and it's just like old times. The only issue is that sometimes the player count is low, so lobbies aren't full, so we need more people playing. Anyway, I say all of that for people who are new to my channel so that you know that I'm not just here to bash this game or the franchise. I love it, and I want nothing more than for the franchise to succeed, but not at the cost of the game itself. And therein lies all of the problems that I've had with the franchise lately. I'll start out briefly with, what does the game get right? I mean, it's a Call of Duty. Of course the gunplay is smooth and satisfying. The movement is tight just like you'd expect, and the classic Call of Duty gameplay loop still works. Like I said, even after a few days of playing it, I genuinely wanted to play more. And for someone who loved Black Ops 2 the way I did, I really enjoyed revisiting some of my favorite maps from the franchise, and they seemed to work well in Black Ops 7. But the longer I played, the more the cracks started to show, and the game started to feel more addictive than fun. There is constant stimulation. The game doesn't give you any downtime or breathing room, and you're always being pushed to move, engage, and react. There's no time for thinking or strategy, which are two things that at the end of the day is what will make or break a first-person shooter for me. It constantly feels like I'm being pulled along by some system, rather than being allowed to choose how I want to play the game. Basically, it feels like there's only one correct way to play. This limits variety, which makes the game start feeling stale very quickly. On top of that, your screen is constantly flooded with flashy colors and text that adds nothing to the actual gameplay, and this is purely there to trigger dopamine in your brain. Granted, this isn't a recent problem, it's been going on since Black Ops 2 or even before, but this is where it starts to feel less like fun and entertainment and more like a compulsion. On the topic of addiction, I will give credit where credit's due. I am glad to not see supply drops and any other gambling mechanics in this game. I know they haven't had those in a while, but again, the last game that I played was Black Ops 3. Unfortunately, the cynic in me wants to say that we all know that they got rid of them purely to avoid lawsuits and controversy because it's gambling, not because they actually care, but I digress. Adding to that addictive feeling is the monetization shock. When I first booted up the game, I was bombarded with screens trying to get me to buy the battle pass, skins, seasonal content, and everything else under the sun. Now, I'll admit that some of these things could have been because it was a free trial, but I don't think that was the case based on what I've seen online. I mean, I haven't even bought the game yet. Why are you trying to sell me all this other crap? Isn't this a $70 game? It has no business pushing monetization this aggressively. The greed never stops with Activision. It's one of the most popular games on the planet, selling more copies every single year than most games sell in their lifetime, and at a premium price, yet they still want to nickel and dime you to death. The game feels engineered to extract engagement and money rather than actually be enjoyable for the player to play. This only adds to the feeling of the game being addictive rather than fun. After that initial monetization shock wore off, it was finally time to actually play the game. But rather than being able to play what I wanted to play, I was forced into mosh pits. I recognize that I'm in the minority here, but my favorite game mode to play is Search and Destroy, and it was straight up not an option. Why? I struggle to see any reason why they forced people into mosh pits. Again, it feels like the game funnels players into a specific high engagement playstyle rather than give any autonomy to its players. No lie, it's entirely possible that had I been able to choose how I wanted to play the game and been able to play Search and Destroy, I may have enjoyed it enough to actually consider purchasing it. Their loss, I guess? So all of that is just a gripe about the free week specifically for Black Ops 7, but I want to talk about my thoughts on the franchise as a whole, because the majority of the issues that I have are not specific to Black Ops 7. These are all symptoms of the larger issues that the franchise has been experiencing for over a decade, and they've only been getting worse year over year. And year over year is the key phrase. They have got to stop releasing this game every single year. I've made a dedicated video on this topic before, and honestly, I have so much to say about it that I could make another one, but for now, I want to just hit the highlights of why this is a detriment to the franchise. First of all, I want to state my qualifications on this topic. I've been a software engineer for over a decade, and I've been in the IT space for almost 2. Admittedly, I don't work in the gaming industry, but I understand what it takes to build a software product, meet deadlines, and to balance user and company needs and timelines. That being said, Call of Duty suffers tremendously because of the annual release cycle. Every single year, they force out a new game, whether it's ready or not. And I mean this in the most literal of ways. For example, 2020, Sledgehammer and Raven weren't able to meet the deadline for their game. There was internal turmoil and it's a whole story. So Activision called in Treyarch to take over and force out Cold War just to keep the annual cycle going. They don't care if the game is good. Hell, they don't even care if it's complete. They are going to release the game, without fail, every year. This is why things are always buggy and unbalanced at launch, and it takes them months to fix it. You're basically paying $70 a year to beta test their game for them, and you don't even get the completed game until halfway through the next year. And by then, they're already hyping up the next game. Assuming you even like it, you barely even get to enjoy the game for 6 months. There's something called the development lifecycle. It's a structure given to projects so that quality products can be delivered. The cycle usually goes planning, implementation, testing, bug fixing, and then feedback iteration. And the last part, feedback iteration, is arguably the most important part. You can have the best ideas and planning in the world, but no developer produces a perfect product first try. It needs to be tested and iterated upon, preferably with open betas. And yes, Call of Duty runs a beta every year, but it's a couple of days and it's not even a real beta. It's a preview of the game. Yes, they can make minor adjustments depending on feedback, but the game is basically in its final form at this point. If it sucks, too bad, deal with it, and hope that the one next year's better. Even iterations across games don't work the way they should. Wouldn't it be nice if a release could learn what was good and what was bad about the previous release so that they could design the next game based on that feedback? But no, because the development cycle is the way that it is, they've already committed to the next game, even if it's a terrible idea. Even right now, Microsoft has come out and said that they recognize that things need to change. People have franchise fatigue. They're sick of going back and forth between the Modern Warfare series and the Black Ops series. But what are we getting in 2026? Later this year. Another freaking Modern Warfare game, because it's already mostly done and it's too late to change it. There's also this pressure to innovate. Because they release a game every year, they can't just release the same game over and over again, so there's too much change for change's sake. Basically, they're just throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, and because they feel like they have to, just so they can justify that next $70 price tag. Anyway, I'm spending way too much time on this specific section. Like I said, I've already made a dedicated video about this topic a long time ago. But that one's so old, and I still have so much to say on it that I'll probably just make another one. Who knows, maybe I'll make one every year. Now, I want to acknowledge my bias in this next section. I started playing Call of Duty back in Modern Warfare 2 in 2009. I don't think that game was perfect. In fact, far from it. But that era's gameplay style, movement, and map design is what made me fall in love with the franchise. It's why I liked the game. So I admit that I'm nostalgic for that style, and therefore it's what I wish the modern games would return to. I also know that I haven't played the game in over 10 years, and there's a whole new generation of players that fell in love with this franchise during the modern era, and they think that this style of gameplay is best. And as much as I hate to admit it, I'm no more correct than they are. And if you're one of those people, I respect that. But this is my video, and therefore my opinions. So let's talk about the maps. They're small, they're boxy, they lack character, and they make me sad. They were very obviously designed to force quick engagements, and they feel manipulative. This, combined with the Omni movement system, just feels like pure chaos. The gameplay that results from this design choice boils down to a game of who can move around the fastest and aim the best. That's not what made me and millions of others fall in love with the Call of Duty franchise back in the day. Yes, it's always been an arcade-style shooter. But man, it used to at least be somewhat tactical. Flank routes, breathing room gave you opportunities to ambush people, you get a kill, you move to another location, you surprise someone there. Most of these choices have been removed from the modern maps, limiting flank routes and forcing engagements at developer-decided places. Again, it feels like you're being forced to play a certain way. I was watching a T-Dog Smitty video recently, and he was very close to a kill streak, so he was playing like somewhat conservatively. He literally apologized for camping, even though he'd only been in the same spot for like 10 seconds. Brother, it's okay to wait for someone to come around the corner if you know that they're there. That's not camping. That's playing strategically, and I miss it. The modern maps are so small that snipers are pointless, at least in the traditional sense. The only time they make sense is if you want to challenge yourself to quickscoping, but they serve no actual purpose in the game. Maybe in search and destroy for locking down an angle, but in respawn, snipers are pointless. I recently tried to watch some professional Call of Duty, which, as a side note, and this will probably be its own video soon, but what the hell happened to Pro CoD? It's the biggest joke of an esport I've ever seen, and it makes me so sad. Black Ops 2 was so good, and it's literally the game that got me into following esports to begin with. Now they don't even use snipers, smokes, thermals, LMGs, or anything else that makes the game even slightly tactical or unique. Why even play the game at that point? It's not even Call of Duty anymore. Anyway, I digress. Like I was saying, I recently tried watching some pro Call of Duty, and again, my favorite game mode was always Search and Destroy, specifically because it was so tactical feeling. But now, the way the pros play Search, you would think you're just watching another respawn mode. They're flying around trying to out-aim each other, hardly any thought or tactics behind what they're doing at all, and it all comes back to the maps and movement, forcing an engagement at every turn. Again, it's why the game feels addicting rather than fun. It's the gaming equivalent of TikTok brain rot. And that's just the map layout. Don't even get me started on the actual design and character of the maps. Which map do you want to play on? Generic oil rig map or generic construction site map? Maps used to tie in with the theme of the game's campaign. Black Ops 1 was the absolute epitome of this. Like I said, I've recently been playing Black Ops 1, and looking through those maps, every single map was memorable. I mean it, I was shocked looking through the list. I hadn't played that game in over a decade, yet I still remembered every detail of every single map. Take Hangar 18, for example. It's an alien cover-up conspiracy theory themed map that ties in perfectly with the Cold War era. A giant SR-71, which was a prominent spy plane during that time, featured in the middle of the map for you to fight on. There's alien themes and technology everywhere, dead unknown bodies on autopsy tables, and apples suspended in the air by electrical forces that, when you shoot it, your bullets ricochet everywhere. Fun little details were everywhere, and that's just one map. They're all like this. Not to mention there are power positions that you can lock down with sniper rifles and shoot across the map. All of this has been lost, and I desperately miss it. While we're on the topic of maps and themes, I want to touch on cosmetics. Again, I see people on the subreddits, and some of them seem to love the collabs and the crazy out there player and weapon skins. I don't think that I'm in the minority though, because there was that huge backlash before Black Ops 7 came out, but I can't stand the stuff that's really out there, at least in Call of Duty. This is nothing new. I remember seeing a Nero Cinema video where your gun changed into an airplane with wings and spinning propellers and all. To me, this stuff does not belong in Call of Duty. It's fine in games like Fortnite and Valorant and games that fit that style, but even in semi-realistic shooters, I can't stand it. And you can make the argument, well, just don't buy them and you hardly notice it. And I agree. I use that argument in Battlefield all the time. Almost all their skins are super grounded though. Yet, some of the community still complains. But unless you're like holding the gun or standing 2 feet away from someone with it equipped, you don't even notice. And this is true with a lot of the things in Call of Duty as well, except for the collabs with the player skins. They pull me out of the immersion so quickly, especially the super jarring ones like Beavis and Butthead and American Dad, where the animation style doesn't even fit in the game. I'm so glad they toned it down for Black Ops 7, but I don't trust them to keep it that way. Again, I'm sure it makes them a lot of money, and at the end of the day, that's what they care about. I want to go back to movement for just a minute. Just to clarify, I'm not opposed to movement-based games. In fact, I quite like them. But Call of Duty already had a good, unique movement system. So much so that there were modes like CoD Jumper, that was like the equivalent of KZ in Counter-Strike, where you used skill movements to navigate obstacles and beat a map. But the movement felt relatively realistic, and you moved the way a soldier would have to in real life. You were punished for things like jumping, mantling, and running out in the open while reloading. Like I said, I've been going back and playing the older games, and yes, these things could be frustrating when you had to wait on them. But again, it forced you to make decisions about when to do certain actions. It raised the skill ceiling of the game, which is always a good thing. In these modern games, especially the ones with omni-movement, the punishment for these type of things is greatly reduced, if not removed, period. You can reload while sprinting and almost always have your gun in a ready position, even if you can only hip fire. If you accidentally run out in the open without checking first, well, you can just slide out of danger with very little risk. You're hardly punished for your mistakes, and it's by design. Activision wants to cater to the lowest common denominators so that people who suck can still get kills. This sounds like a good thing, until you realize that it's not there to help newer players out of the kindness of their heart, it's just so they can sell as many copies as possible. It's manipulative, it does not reward skill, and it's insulting. I hate being treated like a baby. On that same topic, let's talk about other cheap stuff in the game. I hate the stim shot, I hate it. It'd be one thing if everyone had them, which I still don't really like, but the fact that it's tactical equipment infuriates me, and it robs you of so many kills. Again, I haven't played a Call of Duty multiplayer title that's had them before, so when I was shooting people 20 times and they still killed me, I was naturally confused. Then I finally watch a kill cam and realize that people are stimming mid-gunfight. And sure, you can make the argument, well, anyone can use it, but that basically means everyone has to use it to not be at a disadvantage. It has no counter, I hate it, and it shouldn't be in the game. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, but if I talked about all of it, this video would never end. But the last one that I will talk about is the Gravemaker streak. It's a sniper rifle, and when you aim down the sight, it shows the skeleton of every enemy through the entire map, and you can shoot them through the map. There's nothing you can do about it, except yes, you can run cold-blooded, which makes it a crutch perk. At least in the older games, if someone called in something annoying like a swarm, you could sit inside and wait it out if you didn't have cold-blooded equipped. With the Gravemaker, you basically have to equip cold-blooded just in case at the start of the match, and if you don't, you're dead. And it doesn't sound that OP in respawn modes, and it's really not, but I watched Marksman play some Search and Destroy recently, and he could almost take out the entire team with one Gravemaker. That's a whole round lost, unless you're running cold-blooded. It was unbelievable. Yes, Call of Duty has always had cheap stuff to help noobs, but this is just next level. Last, but definitely not least, let's talk about the biggest elephant in the room, skill-based matchmaking. Again, I might make a video on this topic all on its own in the future, but it's such a prevalent issue that I have to at least touch on it here. There are so many issues with this, I don't even know where to begin. I'll start with, I played both kinds of matchmaking in Black Ops 7. They felt relatively similar. But the SBMM playlist was more consistent, which is about what you would expect. Some people think that this is some giant conspiracy and that Treyarch is lying about open being actually open. First of all, they say that skill is minimally considered, not considered. Second, I think all of the noobs that people want to massacre got tired of getting absolutely demolished and they just went back to where they're more protected. So the only people left in the open playlists are the good players, or what everyone in the community calls sweats. Which leads me to my first point. I genuinely see both sides of the skill-based matchmaking argument, and acknowledge the nuance that I feel like everyone else, or at least the content creators and Redditors, seem to ignore. No one wants to be pummeled into the dirt every game. I consider myself to be decent in general at Call of Duty. I still get stomped sometimes, and it's no fun. Like I said, I've been playing Black Ops 1 and 2 again recently, and let me tell you, when I hop back on Black Ops 2, I feel like I'm playing against people who have not stopped playing that game since it first came out in 2012. And there aren't a lot of active lobbies in that game, so you don't have any other option. You can't leave and join another lobby like you used to be able to. It's not fun. And when people talk about skill-based matchmaking online, they seem to forget this. And they also overestimate their own ability, and think that this wouldn't happen to them, and most of them are wrong. I literally saw a post on Reddit recently where someone admitted to this. They were playing in the open playlist in Black Ops 7, and they were so excited to finally be able to stomp some noobs, only to realize that they were the noobs that skill-based matchmaking was protecting. So I'll fully admit that I think skill-based matchmaking, in theory, should exist. Now, before you start typing your comment, let me qualify that. I think that skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty is too strict. I think that there should be more crossover and less strict rules about how it works. You should sometimes get stomped, and you should stomp sometimes. I don't think that every game should almost be a tie. It's healthy, and dare I say fun, to go up against some real competition sometimes, and you can learn a lot from it. And on the other end, it's nice to get a confidence boost sometimes when your team has a really good game. I just think that the ranges should be wider in terms of the skill being considered. However, that's not even the fix that I want Call of Duty to have. Why, in all of the years that this franchise has been around, do we not have a real ranked mode? Why are they hiding skill behind some magical wall to keep it mystified that only serves to frustrate the community? Why not do what every other good game has done and have a casual and a ranked playlist? Then when people want to play in the open playlist, they just join the classic open lobbies that made Call of Duty famous back in the day. Or, if they want to be protected and play against people of a similar skill level, they can go play ranked. This also has the added benefit of giving people something to grind for, and give them the desire to improve at the game. This would also increase Activision's precious engagement that they're always trying to force on everyone. It literally solves all of the problems from both ends, and I don't understand why they haven't done it. And just to clarify, I'm not even talking about league play like in Black Ops 2, where it mirrors the competitive rule set. I think that they should have that too, but that's not what I'm talking about. This would completely eliminate the skill-based matchmaking conversation, which, frankly, is exhausting. Anyway, like I said, I have a lot to say on this, but I'll probably make a dedicated video about it at some point. So for now, I feel like I've stated my case. So that kind of concludes my thoughts. Again, this was less of a Black Ops 7 review, and more of a way for me to catch you all up on my thoughts on the franchise. Again, man, I love this franchise. I have since 2009. And no matter how angry, frustrated, or annoyed I am, I'm never going to stop caring about it, or hoping for some kind of return to glory. But unfortunately, Black Ops 7 ain't it for me. Again, it's not bad. It's very polished and smooth, and it's fun to play. But it still suffers from the same thing the last decade of games from this franchise have suffered from. It feels manipulative, both in its monetization strategy and how it forces you to play. It limits strategy and tactics, rewards bad players, and fails to punish mistakes in any meaningful way. And worst of all, it prioritizes engagement metrics over player expression. Until these issues are addressed, I probably won't be purchasing a new Call of Duty. Honestly, I have so little hope for new Call of Duties that I've just switched to hoping that they just remaster Black Ops 1. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. And honestly, I could be. Again, Microsoft has publicly given Activision orders to address concerns. Sales are down, big time. Again, because of the annual release cycle, I don't have high hopes for Modern Warfare 4, which is supposedly what's releasing this year. But maybe 2027 is the year that Call of Duty finally returns to glory. I also know that I never talked about zombies or the campaign, as this video is purely focused on multiplayer, but holy balls do I have a lot to say on that topic, especially about the campaign. Especially since I recently went back and played the Black Ops 1 campaign, which I legitimately think is a masterpiece. But Black Ops 7, my how the mighty have fallen. But that's going to be the end of the video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. I sincerely want to know your opinions. Do you still play Call of Duty? If so, do you like Black Ops 7? What do you think the last truly good Call of Duty was? And which one would you like to see remastered? Leave your answers in the comments. And hey, don't forget to leave me a rating. Subscribing is always appreciated, but if not, as always, that's cool. And this has been Evengary, guys. If you can't take it easy, don't take it at all. Peace.